Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune, and we're here to talk about Oklahoma athletics, sports, recruiting, football, all of the above. We got a lot of news for you. Special teams coordinator hired, broken by our man Parker Thune. We're going to talk about the NCAA football game coming out. I think that is the big news in the college football world right now, as everybody wants to talk about that. And obviously, we are going to talk about some off-season Oklahoma workouts. We're going to talk about who's standing out a little bit. We're going to talk about, I guess we're going to talk about about the college football game. You know, the white knighting by some people that $600 isn't enough, and we're going to talk about the new playoff rule that just came out. The five conferences per se that are going to get in automatically if they're champions. Seven other teams will get on top of that, and then they're already trying to propose 14 teams now.
Oh, goodness.
What is going on? All of that right here on this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. But first, Parker Thune, you've got some bills to pay.
That is correct, folks. This podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. 2024 is here in full swing, and that means it's time for a New Year's resolution check-in with our friends at Manscaped. Whether you're going for a trim or that clean-shaven look this year, Manscaped's new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra has you covered. Trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. Folks, the Manscaped Lawnmower Ultra, I got completely tongue-twisted there. A lot of descriptors. Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, there you go. That's the MVP of 2024. The fifth generation lawnmower isn't just a trimmer, it's your grooming sidekick equipped with two skin-safe blade heads. It's like having a personal stylist at your fingertips. And it's also waterproof because a trim in the shower is the only way to start the day. And for men who want the full grooming experience, look no further than Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0. In this grooming kit, you get the trusted lawnmower, Manscaped's ear and nose hair trimmer, and essential aftercare products with the Crop Soother Ball aftershave lotion. So many words, holy smokes. And Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant. And as a gesture for the new year, they even threw in two free gifts, the Boxers 2.0 and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. So, folks, get 20% off and free shipping with the code OU Insider at manscaped.com. Embrace a new you, and definitely embrace a new trimmer, courtesy of Manscaped. With that said, Brandon, there's a new staffer.
Yeah, Doug Deakin, man. Doug Deakin, new special teams.
And what's really funny is, and we'll dive into his resume here in just a second. But what's really funny is when I found out on Monday that he was the guy and started digging into his resume and his background and everything he's done at San Diego State, my first thought was the first thought that a lot of fans had last night when that hire went public, which was, why didn't Alabama call this guy instead of Jay Nunez? Because objectively, this is, well, and maybe not objectively, but if we're strictly looking at resume, if we're strictly looking at what Deakin has accomplished over the course of his career at the collegiate level as a coach, this is an upgrade for Oklahoma. And you could say a pretty substantial upgrade. San Diego State has been one of the best special teams units, or has boasted one of the best special teams units in the entire country pretty much every single year Deakin has been there. So for those that aren't familiar with him, he played at San Diego State from 2007 to 2010, jumped straight into coaching, was a graduate assistant there from 2011 to 2014, had a football operations role from 2015 to 2017. In 2018, he returned to the field as a coach. He coached tight ends as well as special teams. The tight ends experiment only lasted 1 year. He was a career special teamer as a player, and so I guess it got to the point where he realized that was his wheelhouse, and both parties agreed that's what he should stick with. So from 2019 all the way up until this past year, 2023, he was exclusively serving as San Diego State's special teams coordinator. Obviously, you have the staff turnover out there at the end of last season. Sean Lewis comes in, the former Colorado offensive coordinator, former Kent State head coach, and he did not retain Deakin's services. So for the first time in his life, Doug Deakin was looking for a new employer, and he found one at the University of Oklahoma. Once again, Brandon, home run hire for Oklahoma. And this is it's really like it's a niche role, admittedly,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Oklahoma fans, after watching the way things unfolded in 2023, understand how large special teams can loom in the grand scheme of things as to whether you lose or win a football game.
Oh, I agree. I think it's the most underestimated portion of football, period. Everybody, you hear coaches talk about being good in all three phases, and that third phase is always special teams. But fans just kind of gloss that over as well. Offense, defense, take care. Special teams, as long as you kick the ball and kick off through the end zone, you're okay there. As long as somebody fair catches and get you decent field position and punt return, you're okay there. But there's so much more to it in that you need somebody that, and Oklahoma fans, we've seen this because Oklahoma lost 2 games this past season by missed field goals, right? And so, and the season before, I might add, season before you lost 5 games by 3 points or less, and I'm pretty sure Schmidt missed field goals in those games as well. I don't know how many and what games he missed, but
I'll
bet you I
tell
can
you.
go back. I bet you can go back 2 or 3 and say that he missed field goals in those games.
He missed against Florida State in the bowl. He missed against Texas Tech and Lubbock. He missed against West Virginia and Morgantown.
There's 3.
Obviously, all of those were losses. Like your final 3 losses of the year all included a missed field goal. And all 3 of those games, you lost by 3 points.
There you go. So I was on the nose and I was just guessing. So because I didn't remember, I remembered, but I didn't remember which games. So, it's important, very, very important. My guess my biggest question, and maybe you know this because I haven't really dug into it because that's been your baby since you started kind of digging around on it. Is he going to be in the same role where he's off the field?
Yes.
And there's
Now here's what I was told, and this is interesting. This is really interesting. I was talking to one source that told me there may be a ruling this summer that allows Deakin to coach on the field. So it's pretty vague, but obviously we've seen a lot of. Well, we've just seen a lot of new doors open in college football in terms of what you can do. I guess you can't do cookie cakes in the hotel room. That's the one thing the NCAA is saying hell no on. But a lot of other doors that weren't previously open have been opened in terms of what is permissible in the last few years. And so if the on-field staff, or I guess if the abilities and scope of off-field assistance are expanded this summer, there is a chance that you could see Deakin in a much more conspicuous role this fall than you might figure.
Okay, so I'm asking this because there's something I found out last night.
Okay.
And I was talking to a person that deals with recruiting at a P5 level.
Gotcha.
And with him being just special teams right now, and at this juncture, he's not on the field, right? Did you know, and this is kind of I'm flipping the script a little bit into a different conversation, but not really trying to. Did you know that Oklahoma only had four full-time recruiting people on staff?
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean,
you know what the average is in the SEC?
It's probably more than 4.
It's 9.
Yeah.
Auburn, I believe, had 13 or 14. A&M had 9. I want to say Tennessee 12, 13-ish, something like that. I'm trying to remember who had 10. Somebody had 10.
So
When
what
I
you're
was
saying is Oklahoma needs some more recruiting staffers.
yes, yes. And so I found out that because I, I was reaching out trying to figure out why everybody was leaving, right? Like the two big dogs were leaving. And I get that they got assistant AD roles and that's a jump up.
Absolutely.
But I can, without a doubt, tell you that there's a decent chance that one of them stayed if there was more help.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That makes sense. That tracks.
does it?
Yes, definitely.
So, and the crazy part is, and this is where fans do, this is not on Venables. I do not point, this is not on BV. As a matter of fact, I was specifically told that he has been, for a lack of a better term, and since I used it earlier in the intro, white knighting for the recruiting staffs, like going to bat for them, saying, let's get some more people added on here. Let's see how we can figure this out and get it done.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's important to understand too is that, people are they're gonna hear what you're saying right there, Brandon, and they're gonna figure, okay, well, just allocate some more money, right? Bring on some new recruiting staffers. How hard can it be? Oklahoma makes how much money as an athletics department? If you look at OU's recent fiscal report, at least for the athletic side of things, yeah, they made almost $200 million this past year,
Oh,
but
did you see that?
their
Okay.
surplus was less than $500,000. So all of the money is pretty much accounted for.
Yeah, and the issue you're running into is in this person that I spoke with, and you probably know who it is. What I'm about to say, um, said that the the amount of payroll that Auburn had was like $1.4 million in the recruiting last year. That's full-time payroll, 1.4, and uh that was for 14 people. So and I don't know if they're gonna. And this person said, I don't know if they're gonna continue to have that many, but when the two people that left looked at the situations they were in, I was told that there was some kind of falling on the sword done by those two that left, as in trying to wake up the administration of let's go get some more people to help. Uh, we're leaving, so and we're leaving because of the lack of help and the 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. nights constantly, like all that type of stuff. So I thought that was I thought that was intriguing. I really did. I thought the conversation that I had was eye-opening because Oklahoma's recruiting at such a high level. And that shows you just how hard the coaches are working and the recruiting staff's working. Now, I will say this, and this person did notate this as part of the help, and I'm air quoting the help for those not watching on YouTube. OU has a lot of student help, a lot of student help. The problem is that student help is not, you don't know because of their class schedules when they'll be able to be in, when they won't be able to be in, right? On any given day. Like, but what if there's a big test? What if there's like, you've got to work around that schedule too. So it, look, this is something I didn't know, because when you look at how Oklahoma's recruited and look at what they've done in the transfer portal, you look at that and you go, what? How is that possible? How are 4 people for them beating out all these teams that have all these, multitude of recruiting people?
And
Well, because they're working 12 hours every day to make it happen because they love the university and wanted to do right by their job.
And
But you're not going to keep these people long term if you run them into the ground. And that's where Venables is really working diligently, from what I'm being told behind the scenes, and trying to gather, at least get 4 more extra people added onto that recruiting staff, because not only is the recruiting staff and the student assistants working their butts off, the coaches are having to do extra to compensate for the lack of recruiting help. And that, which they're doing their job, they're building relationships, they're doing that, but they do extra stuff too to try to help. And that is the crazy part about it. That's not, I mean, it is part of their job, but it's not something you would see an SEC team do. I don't know if it happens right now, but I think once Oklahoma starts getting in that SEC money, you'll probably see them start adding on recruiting help.
Yeah, and they're going to need it, right? Because you will need additional hands on deck. J.R. Sandlin and Lee Davis were amazing at their jobs, and we talked about this on the last podcast. That's part of the reason they're both assistant ADs today at Power 5 schools. And the fact that the Sooners were able to keep the machine running as smoothly as it did while being understaffed, at least relative to the rest of the SEC, that says a lot for the work that Lee Davis and J.R. Sandlin and the other folks in that office did. But
I mean, you just got to give it up to the staff in general, like the coaches, everybody. And I want to add one more thing, is that, like, this isn't coming down on the administration, like, at all, because OU's administration is amazing. What they've done, like, you have to look at it from Joe C's perspective, right? At that point in time, when they had 4, I bet you all the Big 12 either had less or right around the exact same as Oklahoma. So they were recruiting with the mindset, or they had the personnel with the mindset of, this is what we had. This is what the average is in the Big 12. Okay. Now, Texas, I think, had 10 or 11, but Texas is Texas. They're always going to be kind of showboaty with what they do. And whether it works for them or not, they're always going to have more than Oklahoma on the money side. And so I knowing Joe C, knowing the administration and how OU works, I'd be willing to bet that you start seeing a balancing act, right? Wouldn't you agree? Like, they always do right by the football program, the basketball. They always do right by their sports.
Yes.
At the end of the day. So don't go bashing, well, this is Joe C and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. They were in the Big 12. And the Big 12 probably didn't have, I haven't looked into it, the Big 12 probably didn't have a lot of personnel working in the recruiting department. So
it just means more in the SEC, right?
Yeah, it really does.
The game is changing. So kind of closing the loop here, and I know we went.
Yeah, that's on me derailing it, but I did want to get that out there before I forgot about it. Sorry.
Yeah, so we went from off-field staff to specifically the recruiting office, and let's loop back around here to Doug Deakin, because for those that aren't familiar with what he has done at San Diego State, I want to read you an excerpt from the story that we had prepared for when his hire became public. Again, if you're an OUinsider.com member, you knew this was happening on Monday, right? So this is part of the reason why you stay tuned in over there. Under Deakin's tutelage, San Diego State punter Tanner Colgin led the Mountain West with 45.4 yards per punt in 2020. That is a number very comparable, by the way, and this is me interjecting. That is a number very comparable to what Luke Elzinga averaged for Oklahoma.
What did Turk average?
Turk was ridiculous. Turk was like 47, I think.
Okay.
But Luke was like, Luke was 45.1.
Yeah, he came on late.
Last year. So anyway, back to the story. Jordan Bird's 31.9 yards per kick return ranked 7th in the country.
Whoa.
Now, come 2021, San Diego State's Matt Ariza, just signed by the Kansas City Chiefs, earned unanimous All-American honors and won the Ray Guy Award. And the Aztecs blocked 3 punts as a team. Only 10 other programs in the nation did that. In 2022, kicker Jack Browning earned MWC Special Teams Player of the Year honors, while Bird was the only player in the nation to return both a kick and a punt for a score. Come 2023, Browning was named a semifinalist for the Ray Guy Award, and SDSU's special teams unit ranked among the national top 10 in efficiency for the third straight season. So all that to say, in that one paragraph, you hear punters mentioned, you hear kickers mentioned, you hear kick returners mentioned, you hear punt returners mentioned, all earning accolades, conference accolades and national accolades at San Diego State under the leadership of Doug Deakin. And that's just in the last 4 seasons. Right.
That's crazy. So essentially they cleaned house with all the special teams awards in that conference.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then on top of that went to All-American and the Ray Guy Award. And did anybody ever did you bring up the Groza Award by chance?
They did not have. So Jack Browning was he was the only guy in the country this past year that was on the preseason watch list for both the Groza and the Ray Guy.
Wow.
That's another one that wasn't even mentioned there. And he didn't end up winning the Groza, but like I said, semifinalist for the Ray Guy.
That's awesome. Cyber territory.
San Diego State special teams have been amazing as long as Deakin has been there. And once again, like it leaves me wondering, okay, if Alabama was looking for a special teams guy, no disrespect to Jay Nunez, but how is Doug Deakin not your first call?
I mean, relationships matter, I guess is what I would say. Is most of the hires that you look to, like when we go through, I'll just give everybody the cheat code of how we figure out things. So when we go through and there's an opening, instantly we'll go and we'll look at, okay, where was Venables at? And let's go through every year that he was at Clemson all the way down to support staff. And where are those support staff guys working right now? That's where we got to Allie. That's why we always had Allie on our watch list.
Well, and that's how you build a hot board, right? Like until you know better, until there is a sense internally as to who's going to get interviews and you get the word from sources as to, okay, these guys are under consideration. Immediately there's a vacancy. People want to know who's in contention. And the way you build a hot board is you look at past connections, you look at guys that are doing it at a high level and maybe have ties to Oklahoma.
Yep.
And so there was never, I mean, we never did a hot board for senior special teams analysts just because, that doesn't really move the needle for folks. But like I said, Deakin emerged as the guy by this past weekend. We knew on Monday morning that hire was happening and reported it to OUinsider.com members as such. Now here we are, obviously on Friday. And I do know I just got a text from a source while we were recording, maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. It said it's now been announced to the team that he is going to be the next special teams guy. So
there you go.
They have been informed.
There you go. Look at us. Look at us, OU Insider. Parker, good job. Pat you on the back. I'll air pat you through the thing.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right. In other news in the college football world, not only did we get the teaser for the college football game, and I know there's a lot of people that maybe don't care about this, but this is one of the most iconic games in the history of video games. It is one of the most popular. It's so popular for those that don't know that the 2014 version, they have about 4 or 5 years ago, they started modding 360s, and I'm guilty of buying a modded 360.
Oh boy.
Arrest me now. And not only did they mod the 360, they went back and they modded the college football game to where new players, new graphics, like the ESPN graphics are updated to what they are now. The rules are updated. So like I'm actually taking it up to our boy Brian Clinton on the way up to Springfield 7-on-7 when we leave after we record this podcast. And Brian is a very technologically sound person, and he's going to help me finish modding, update the mod that I have on 360 for the 12-team playoff.
I was smart enough to do stuff like that.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. I can't wait because you'll have, not only do you have the 2023 rosters, Not the 24, because 24, there's no need for the 24 rosters because guess what? You're going to get that with a new game that's coming out. That's going to be on PS5 and Xbox One X and S, which is the next generations of that for those that don't understand. So, I've got kids that are 12. Well, one will be 12 in July, the other one will be 9 in April, and we play video games together just because that's father son thing. It's a cool thing to do. So, um, it's been a big deal in this house that this game's coming out, and it's a big deal because Dad, me, I grew up on that game. That game came out the first time when I was 9 years old. Bill Walsh football, college football, is what it was called, and they only had the top 25 teams at that point. And then it rolled over into NCAA football, where all the teams, all 134 FBS teams were in it, Division One teams were in it, and you would get like Jason White would be quarterback number 18, and he would be from, instead of total, Clinton, Oklahoma is where he'd be from, and he would be the exact height, exact weight, and he'd be like 95 overall because he won the Heisman, right? So like that's how that stuff worked for those that don't know. So this is a big deal. That's why you see it in the news. That's why you see it even scrolling across the the marquee at the bottom, the ticker at the bottom of ESPN, because they're making a big deal. That's why you see Herb Street, everybody tweeting about it. So when they said all 134 teams are coming out, great. That's awesome. We expected it, but that's awesome. Here's the issue that you run into is they're paying the players to get their headshots, to put their name out there. They're giving them $600 a piece and a free video game. And that video game is on average between $80 and $100 now, depending on the version that you get. If you get the best version, it's $100. And that comes with all the bells and whistles and extra stuff that you can have to probably have NIL money, is what I'm going to expect to buy for your program to recruit. And then on top of that, you have people white knighting for the College Football Players Association, which isn't really a union. It's just a bunch of college football players that get together and they just kind of try to fight for the rights of college football players. And you have this Mike Florio guy for NBC Sports that's saying that this is stupid.
Bro,
that players would take in
Florio
$600.
is so washed.
Dude,
Like,
$600 is like they split the rent. First off, they don't pay for rent. They don't pay for food. The universities pay for all that for them. That $600 could go get them extra clothes. They could send it to help mom and dad pay for something that needs to be paid for. Like, what are we talking about? And half the players, 90% of the players on that game, nobody cares if they're on it or not on it. That's why it's cool that they get on it so they can tell their buddies, I'm on a video game and you've never been on one.
well,
And what this is so stupid. So stupid. They're going to have single out guys like where they pay extra to people to I guess promote the game. So you're going to have the guys like Jackson Arnold and stuff that are going to make more because they're going to go out and promote the game because they're big names, right? Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, like those types for UOU fans. But the rest of the guys making $600, that's $600 more than they would probably make anyways in NIL extra. Now everybody gets paid at Oklahoma, but that's neither here nor there. On top of that, if you do the math, Parker, I did the math yesterday. You want me to tell you what it is?
What does the math say?
The math says that it's $6,834 in NIL that they've paid out across the board to 134 teams. Now, if you add the game going into it, and I did it at $99 because they're probably going to get the top-notch game if they do it, it almost is $8 million. So, like, that is a lot of money that EA Sports is just throwing out there to begin with, just to get the players on there. Did you know that the licensing for teams, what they paid in is what it averages to get the team licensing, which is between $50 and $75,000, depending on the team, depending on the university. So they essentially just paid the average per player just for the licensing. Like everything they did was on average.
And I can't fathom why anyone would have a problem with the rate that the players are getting. And fortunately, a lot of people have come out and said, okay, that's just not true. Like they're, for the most part, they're fine. I'm sure there are a handful of exceptions across the college football where they're like, I'm worth more than $600. You're getting paid for nothing. And okay, while you maybe had more of a leg to stand on in the days where you couldn't monetize your name, image, and likeness, and this was the only way that you were going to be able to capitalize off it, those days are over, right? And so once again, you were getting paid $600 in a video game to do nothing. Free money. And gosh, man, Mike Florio is so washed, and it's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like 15 years ago, growing up, watching Football Night in America, it was him and Peter King that would come in and they'd have the insider updates, and it was great. He was on top of everything, right? Pro Football Talk was a big thing. Now, like every single time Florio writes something that goes semi-viral, it's never for a good reason.
No,
it's because everybody is panning what he wrote.
It's sad. And then to even, and I brought up the mod thing for a reason earlier, because if you don't want to be in and you want to opt out, guess what's going to happen? They're going to figure out a way to mod you into it. Just like they do all the draft classes for NBA 2K and all the NFL draft classes for Madden. Somehow, some way, they're going to figure out a way to fit you in there and put you on the roster, whether you like it or not. So you might as well make $600 and get a $100 game handed to you for free on top of it. So essentially $700. And I wonder if there is a deal where the player's like, well, I don't want the game, just give me an extra $100, and they just do it. I'm sure there's a way around that. So there you go. Just get your money. Anyways. All right. The other big news in college football, it's off season when we're talking about a video game. The playoff committee, 5 teams, automatic bids out of the conferences, which I thought was absurd that there was 5.
So the Pac-2 is no longer getting an automatic bid then, huh?
I don't remember what was the 5th team? What was the 5th conference?
Group of 5, right?
Yeah.
Like highest ranked group of 5.
Highest ranked group of 5 is getting in there.
Highest ranked group of 5 conference champion gets the auto bid.
It's so stupid. And they shouldn't even be in there anyways. So no offense.
You don't think
group
so?
of 5.
We could go for a long time with that debate, but
no, I don't think there. Did you watch the Liberty game?
I did watch the Liberty game. Did you watch the Fiesta Bowl in January 2007? Did you? I mean,
oh my God! Did you just break for your opening argument? Did you just throw out a game where? Yeah, they did. They used trick plays. They blew a 35-7 lead to begin with.
Were they up 35-7?
I believe it was 30. I was at the game. I think it was 35-7 or it was 30-something-7. I thought they had 30 points on Oklahoma.
And I think that's the example that everybody best remembers. But how about UCF going undefeated and winning the Cotton Bowl over Auburn? How about? I mean, they're yes.
With that Auburn team, what were they ranked?
I don't remember, like 11th. Yes. Look, Liberty got smoked by Oregon. And that is the most recent recollection that anybody has of a group of 5 team playing in a New Year's Six Bowl. And of course, that's probably going to taint the perspective a little bit. But on the whole, that group of 5 team that gets the auto bid, but Tulane over USC in January of 2022, right? Like that team has
with Alex Grinch as your defensive coordinator. Yeah, they almost beat Oklahoma at home. Yeah, with Alex Grinch as defensive. Yeah, we can go on. That was going to happen. You're giving bad arguments because I can poke holes in those really easy. So here's my deal, real quick. So in a playoff scenario, they're probably going to be the 12th seed.
Yeah, probably so.
Right? So they're going to go to the number 1 team.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen? Number 1. Okay, let's say let's say that last year's SMU. Let's say that which should have been the team that got in there, by the way. If we were going to do it, last year's SMU team goes to Georgia in Athens, night game, first round of the playoffs. What do you think happens to them?
I'll tell you what I think happens, Brandon. I think SMU gets.
They grab their ankles.
I think they get skull drugged, but
Yeah.
I don't know that's what happens, right? That's why we play the games. I mean, that's why March Madness is so much fun, right? And obviously,
But they're at neutral sites.
Well, yes, but holy smokes, like fairly,
which is the games that you just use as example. We're at neutral sites. They're going to be playing at the top 6 teams home field. That is going to be awful.
Yeah, it'll be tough. It won't be impossible. I mean, you don't have to look any further than Fairleigh Dickinson knocking off Purdue last year in the round of 64 to understand. Like, yes, odds are the 1 seed more often than not will not only beat the 12 seed, but beat them handily. But every now and again, we will get that upset that reminds us all why we love college football. And it's that the game is unpredictable. It's that, yeah, you know what? This team looked a hell of a lot better on paper. But when push came to shove and they hit the gridiron for 60 minutes, the team that maybe was a little bit under, well, the team that maybe didn't have as much firepower, they came out on top.
Mm-hmm. It'll be once in a blue moon that happens, though.
And I agree.
But if that happens, and that's why there's the G5 in general, they've been trying to get where they're separated and they have their own little playoffs. And you see why, because when you look at the NIL, you look at the recruiting, you look at the NFL draft picks, like going and playing Oklahoma in Norman, you are playing against a bunch of top 250 kids in the country, and you're trotting out dudes that they didn't even know existed. And that's unfortunate. In college basketball, the difference is like these teams that are these undermanned, those college coaches know, because you only get 2 or 3 guys every year that you recruit. So the chances are that you probably know somebody or know of those players that are on Fairleigh Dickinson. What if they got a transfer from a big name school like that? And that happened a lot in college basketball that allowed them those upsets to take place. Somebody transferred down from a Big Ten school to one of these smaller schools, and now they're all conference, all everything. They're in year 5. They're a man playing amongst boys, and they're hitting 3-point shots from the logo. And we've seen it happen plenty. You're giving that look, but we've seen it happen plenty.
I mean, we have, sure, but like it's not a one size fits all type of thing. It's not as if every single upset that we've seen happens because a team is actually much better than they look on paper. No, sometimes you just catch lightning in a bottle for 40 minutes of basketball or 60 minutes of football, and that's what makes it fun, right? Like, for instance, 2017. Oklahoma ended the regular season as the number 2 team in college football. You remember what the one game they lost was? It was at home to an Iowa State team that was a 30-point underdog. And that's why we love the sport.
Who's that
quarterback? It was Kyle Kemp.
And
Joel Landry.
Brock Purdy wasn't on the team yet?
Brock Purdy was not on the team yet.
He was 2018, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Kyle Kemp, yeah. I mean, he caught lightning in a bottle. He did. But they also had a really good running back, didn't they? 2 really good tight ends that were the best in the conference.
Yes, they had talent. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what. And that, again, to my point. Yes, a group of 5 team is not going to be as talented as the number 1 team in the nation in any given year, but they're going to have talent. They're going to have NFL caliber dudes.
But okay, so Oklahoma was up 35 or 34. I think it was 34-17 at halftime, if I remember correctly, in that game. Or 31-7, excuse me, 31, because they lost 31-38. They didn't score in the second half. If it's a playoff game, 0 chance that they let off the pedal. They don't let off the accelerator. They put that thing down, and it's guns a-blazing, and Baker probably lays another 30 on them.
Well, I mean,
again, I'm right. Like, that's the thing, is they let up.
That point would hit home a lot more if 3 months later Oklahoma didn't do the exact opposite in the playoff against Georgia.
But against a Georgia team that ended up winning the national title 2 years later, or when they win was it 3 years later, right? That they won the national title 3 years later, but they made the championship game the very next year again as well and lost to 2-0, throwing an amazing overtime game. Like they were loaded with talent.
No, that was how they made the championship game that year. Was beaten.
Oh, excuse me. That's right. That's right. So they won it in 2018, right? No, they lost to Clemson. I can't remember. I'm so confused now. So 2018, who's it? I thought Clemson won the national title in 2018.
The 2018 season, yes, Clemson won the national title over at Tua in Alabama. The 2017 season, so January of 2018, Alabama
Georgia
and Georgia
won it,
played
right?
for the title.
And
Alabama
Georgia
and
won it.
Played for the title, and Alabama won.
Yeah, so Georgia won the national title the very next year.
No, Georgia didn't win the national title until January 2022.
I thought they've won. Man, I'm so confused now. This is what happened when COVID happened. Like I just lost everything pre-COVID.
That's why you don't get the jab, folks.
I didn't. So I really have no excuse. I'm also sleep deprived 90%. Okay, so 2018, who won 2018 season? Bama won it, right?
2018 season, Clemson won it over Alabama.
Okay, that's what I said earlier, and you had me all confused.
No, you said Georgia won it over Alabama.
No, I said earlier, didn't Clemson win 2018? And you said the 2018 season they won it.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. And they beat Alabama in the title game, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Oh my God, dude, you had me thinking I was crazy. You literally had me thinking, because I could have swore that in 2018 it was Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, Oklahoma were the four.
Yes.
Okay. Golly, dude. Like, you had me thinking I was crazy. All right. Okay. So I'm not crazy. And
back
I do
on track. Back on track.
Right.
So they're talking about expanding the playoff again, and we haven't even played a 12-team playoff yet.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's insanity, and I lost my light.
Oh, you just got very dark.
All right. Keep talking, and I will keep talking. I will fix that problem real quick.
Yeah, well, one of our old colleagues, Josh Pate, is well known as being one of the more level-headed, respected voices in all of college football. And he posted a video last night to his Twitter that kind of broke down the whole situation and how we got here and why we got here. And I think it made a whole lot of sense. He's generally on the nose about stuff like that, and he certainly was in this case. It's all about money at this point. That's the only reason why you keep expanding the playoffs. And I think one of the key points that he made is that the term meaningless game only came into the vernacular in college football within the last decade. And it's because the mere existence of the playoff and the who's in campaign have convinced everyone that if you're not playing for a spot in the playoff, that your games don't mean anything. And that wasn't the case before the college football playoff era. And so I think the point that he was making, I see a lot of validity in it. And it is my concern as the playoff continues to expand is that I guess theoretically continues to expand. If the playoff continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, then there are more and more games that people are going to consider to be meaningless that 10 years ago, 20 years ago would have meant a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the saving grace for college football right now is the fact that you have Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC. So you have these marquee games taking place. I think what's going to end up saving college football, some people want to say that roster or conference realignment is what is a downfall outside of on top of NIL. That's what's going to save it, is because you're going to have Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. You're probably going to end up with Florida State and Clemson in the SEC at some point in time as the ACC looks to fall apart from everything that we keep hearing. And the Florida State is like looking to try to get out. And Clemson isn't going to be too far behind if that takes place, because they are essentially a big name program that will garner that type of attention. I think you'll probably see North Carolina in the Big Ten if that takes place. You'll see Notre Dame finally get into a conference and go to the Big Ten.
Yeah, Notre
Right.
Dame's kind of not going to have a choice at a certain point.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
going
I
to have
mean,
to align with the conference.
and that's what's going to save college football. So yeah, it sucks that people are saying that, oh, these out of conference games aren't going to take, they're going to have to take place. Like, you're not going to have a choice other than to play Oklahoma, Michigan, and stuff like that, because you're going to have 30 teams in the Big Ten and 30 teams in the SEC, and they're going to make you play out of conference. And your only two choices are going to be, you got to go over to play one or two games in the Big Ten, and you've got to play whoever the third conference is that may have 15, 20 teams that are blah, like the Big 12. And you're still going to be playing teams like Oklahoma State and Kansas State and stuff like that. So the games are still going to be meaningful. They're going to be cool. They're going to be awesome. And I think that's a perfect world. I understand what I'm saying. The perfect world of college football, but that's where it's headed. Do you not agree with that? That is where this thing's headed.
My question is, at what point does the Big Ten rebrand to like
the Big Ten? Yeah,
the Big 20,
the Big 20,
Big 30?
I mean, well, what about the Big 12? They've got 14 teams in it now. And in the basketball, isn't Gonzaga in the Big 12 in basketball now? Here pretty soon?
I don't think so.
I
know that was a conversation.
No, they were in talks. They were in talks with it. I don't know if they ever really took place, but there's a lot of people that feel like that's going to take place. Like some of those smaller big name schools, the Big 12 is going to bring in, and they're going to be that basketball conference that is just awesome. It's already awesome, but like more awesome than it already is. So
here's what's going to happen. Eventually, all of college football will assimilate into two giant conferences. And within those two giant conferences, we will have divisions. And the divisions of today will be the conferences of yesteryear, in essence.
Right. But see, you'll be playing out of division games and stuff like, and that's what will make the college football awesome, because there's never going to be a down moment to where you're like, oh, man, Oklahoma's playing, I don't know, North Carolina. We'll just say North Carolina. Man, that's a crap. No, that's a cool brand name that is going to be on your schedule at all times. To me, I think what's going to end up hurting is the small schools, like some of these FCS schools that they bank on getting the crap kicked in for 3 games at some of these P5 programs, because they get paid $2-3 million, $4 million to come in and play those games, right? And then that makes their football budget and their basketball budget pays for it, right? Across the board, they get $12 million bam. That pays for all their travel. That pays for a lot of their salaries. That pays for a lot of the equipment and all that. They get all that stuff paid for. And then they go in their conference and they win 9 games and end up in the FCS playoff. But those days are over. Like, those days are dwindling fast, Parker, like real fast, where teams aren't going to be playing those games. Because why would you pay somebody to come in and just get that extra win when what I think is going to end up happening is the playoff committee is going to look and go, okay, you won 9 games in the SEC. You lost 2 in conference or 3 in conference, right? But who did you beat? Or you're 9-3 and you're in the SEC. Who did you beat out of conference? That's going to be the deciding factor, much like the seedings in basketball, in my opinion. Am I off? Like, I think if you played like Michigan and you end up going on the road and beating Michigan and you're 9-3 and there's somebody that's 10-2 and beat, I don't know, Arkansas State to get that 10th win, you're going to go in over them because you have that great out of conference win. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. It does.
So I don't know. We could debate that all day. Real quickly, off season, winter workouts.
Yeah.
Standouts.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of these freshmen have been really, really impressive. I was told Eli Bowen had some of the most impressive testing numbers of any
Not
defensive
shocking.
back. Yeah, not shocking. Real bad look for all the folks that thought he only landed at Oklahoma on scholarship because his older brother is Peyton. No, that kid can play. That kid can play. And you probably won't see him much, if at all, in 2024, just because the Sooners are so deep at cornerback. But he's a Bowen. Those genes are good. He's gonna have a good, fun career at the University of Oklahoma. This shouldn't shock anyone, but Michael Hawkins has just blown everybody away with his athleticism relative to the other quarterbacks. And the other quarterbacks aren't slouches, right? But anybody that watched Michael Hawkins in high school knows that just from a sheer athletic standpoint, he is different. And the velocity.
A room with Casey Thompson, that's saying something, dude, because Casey is an athlete. So
yeah, well, I mean, all those guys, Jackson Arnold.
Oh yeah, well, we all know Jackson is, but I'm just
We watched him run 21 miles an hour as a senior in high school. So yeah, all those, and Brendan Zurbrugg is very much state champion in Ohio in the hurdles, but Michael Hawkins has just been that much better than everybody else in that aspect of things, which again is not shocking because he is electric. Velocity, the velocity numbers on his throws have been really, really strong as well, from what I've heard. And then defensively, man, flipping back over to the other side of the ball, and we kind of touched on this in the live stream on Wednesday. Michael Boganowski and Reggie Powers have really been turning some heads, which the rich get richer, Brandon Hall.
Well, Boganowski's up to, I believe he's 205, I think, for 210, something like that already. So he's putting on some really good muscle and weight. I thought what I've been told is Xavier Robinson has just transformed his body, just looks fantastic. And this source told me the other day, he said he's already really strong, but not only is he losing baby fat, but he is putting on muscle. They said he looks just like a new dude. Like you look at him, they said when he walked in there, this source said he walked into a room the other day and was just like, what in the world? Who was that? And they're like, that's Xavier Robinson. It's like, what? That's the same dude? And so it completely transforms his body already over the last month, which is great. Shows you how good OU's nutrition staff is and how good Schmitty and his staff is. Like, they're top notch. There's the reason why they're the best in the business. And another guy that is just, did you see the photos of David Stone yesterday?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It looks like a 5-star.
He's 285, almost 290, they said. And he has almost zero body fat on him, they said. They said he is ridiculous. They said his feet are unbelievable whenever they do drills. They said he has amazing, sounds really weird to say, but they said his hips are ridiculous in how just he's able to move and get skinny, when working and doing drills and stuff like that. Like, and it almost baffled this source to the point where they're like, that is what an SEC defensive lineman looks like. And so Oklahoma's finally getting that grasp with the Dejon Terrys of the world, the PJs of the world, the R. Mason Thomases of the world. And obviously Ethan Downs is a really, really good player. He's all conference every year, but he's a technically sound human being. He's not the longest guy in the world. Outside of that, Ethan's ridiculously athletic and a freak, but they're talking like length, athleticism, weight, all that above. Like, these guys are just top notch. And then I asked this source, I said, who do y'all think will win? I've asked like 3 different sources. Who do y'all think will be have the most yards as far as receiving goes? And almost instantly, they asked me what I thought, and I said, well, Nick Anderson. And they said, well, that's the easy answer. And that's what every OU fan is going to say is Nick Anderson, right? That's what you and I say, Nick Anderson. This person came out and said Deion Burks. It was like quick. And I was like, why are you so confident? He said, that dude is so explosive, playing the same position as Drake. if he can run routes remotely as close as Drake does, as precise as Drake does. So dude's going to be a problem.
Well, and as I think back to last season, I think it depends what Jackson Arnold's mentality is as a quarterback compared to Dylan Gabriel's, because I was very vocal heading into last season that I thought Nick Anderson was going to be Oklahoma's top receiver, and he was in many categories. He wasn't in yardage or receptions, though.
Right.
Those categories belonged to Drake Stoops, and it was because Drake Stoops was doing the dirty work, running precise routes, creating separation, getting open, moving the chains on third down, doing all the stuff he needed to do to make sure that Dylan Gabriel was looking his way time and time and time again. And does Deion Burks have the same luxury of time to build that type of rapport with Jackson Arnold? No, but I think few would argue that Deion Burks is also a different caliber of athlete than Drake Stoops. And that's no knock on Drake, right? But Deion's he's cut a little different. And so if what they lack in time to form that rapport, they can make up for in the fact that Burks is generally just going to be a better all-around athlete than whoever he lines up against. And yes, I think there is certainly a world in which he leads the Sooners in receptions. I can see that happening. And with as good as he is after the catch with the ball in his hands, he could very well lead the Sooners in receiving yards as well.
And another thing that I think OU fans are going to really like, and look, this is all teaser stuff. Like, we've got a lot. I'm going to drop notes here over the next, it'll be today actually, on team notes that'll be dropping. So there will be some interesting linebacker news. Parker, I've already told you about this. As far as somebody getting a look at linebacker and Cheetah and some other things that I'm going to be dropping. But as far as running back goes, they are so high on what Salchuk's doing right now. I guess he's added like 9 or 10 pounds over the last few months. And you could see it in that video that he did yesterday with the signing up for something or getting on a list, or I can't remember what it was for, but he was like doing, ball crunches, right? Like, medicine ball crunches. And he just looked thicker. And this person told me a few days before that he had put on 8 or 9 pounds, and that with the strength he's added, he hasn't really lost a step in his speed. And you're talking about a 4.3 guy. And they think he's going to run get 1,200, 1,300 yards this year if he can stay healthy.
Oof.
Which is just, if that happens, he's not going to be back after next year.
I mean, no, he won't. But
Bye.
How can you have watched the latter half of the season last year and what Gavin Sawchuk did and not expect him to go well above and beyond the 1,000 yard mark in 2020?
No doubt. He's a special back. And I think the funny thing is fans it took him a while to come around to that, because we kept telling everybody, look, he's struggling with a hamstring. He's not really that explosive right now. And nobody would sit there and listen. It's like, we just lost a step. He's not fast anymore. And then when he got healthy, it was like, bam.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, that dude can run. It's a shocker, right? So anyways, all right. I think that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. If you're not a member of OU Insider, go over there. That's the content that you've heard on here today is just crumbs of what you get over on OU Insider. That's the cool part about it, is like, we talk about all this team stuff and Parker breaks all this news. Well, if you're on OU Insider, you've already known all this stuff. That's the crazy part about it. Like, you have known all this stuff already for a week, sometimes longer. So go join us. Get in to know. Be that guy or female at the water cooler when somebody wants to talk OU sports and recruiting. And like, oh, yeah, well, how about this? My guy tells you. We'll be your guy. We'll be your guy. We'll be your inside source. So go to OU Insider, $9.95 a month, or $99.95 will get you a whole year. $9.95 will get you a month. You go month-to-month basis. Try us out. Give us a shot. If you don't like us, whatever, spring ball is rolling around and we're going to have all sorts of practice notes, all sorts of team notes, all sorts of recruiting notes. Who's visiting that practice? We'll have that for you on OU Insider. What 5-stars in town? We have that for you on OU Insider. There's a bunch of big visit dates happening. March 9th, I believe later March is also a big date. And then obviously the spring game on April 20th. We're going to have all those lists for you, who's visiting, how those visit went, how close is OU from getting another commit, who's going to be the next commit, all that on OU Insider VIP, plus basketball coverage, plus softball coverage, plus baseball coverage. We have all of it for you. OU Insider VIP, your one-stop shop for all things OU sports, athletic, and recruiting. That's what we're here for you. And we love doing it, and we do it for you. And because of you, and without you guys, we don't have a job. And we love our jobs. So thank you guys very, very much. Again, $9.95 a month, or you can go and do a whole year and get all the way up to this point in 2025 for just $99.95. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Help us get to 16,000 by the end of spring practice. Please, please, please. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider and the Visor Students podcast. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.